He, as a small sub, is surveying the bottom of the ocean in an area that should be flat. But the area is filled with mountains. Well, those mountains turn out to be an army of frost giants headed their way. Meanwhile, on the moon, Thor struggles to lift his hammer, much to everyone in Asgardia's dismay, who have now gathered around in concern. Odin shows up and wants a recap of what's been going on. Freya says it's been weeks since Thor first dropped his hammer, and in that time all he's done is continue to try to pick up his hammer. In fact, everyone in Asgard has tried to pick it up and no one can. Even Odin himself tries to lift it and can't do it. As Odin and Freya trade insults with each other, Odin's crows show up and bring news that the frost giants have attacked Midgard. And hammer or no hammer, Thor won't leave Midgard unprotected. Back on the ocean floor, we find out that Malekith, the accuser, is behind the frost giant's attack, and is apparently looking for something he's calling it. Thor shows up, now wielding Jaborn, the axe, and starts fighting Malekith. Thor puts up a valiant effort, but the fight ends with Malekith picking up Jaborn and cutting off Thor's arm. Back on the moon, we see a mysterious woman pick up Mjolnir, as she says there must always be a Thor. This issue begins with Thor picking up Mjolnir on the moon, still in amazement of her newly found powers. This is no time to sit and figure them out, as Midgard is in trouble. After all, there is some frost giants and a dark elf to take care of. And with that, she whips Mjolnir around like she's seen Thor do 1,000 times before, and she's off. New Thor lands on Earth, and after a minute of wondering exactly how the hammer knew where to bring her, she finds the frost giant's lair. To her surprise, she finds that she's not the first warrior who arrived at the frost giant's lair, as a few other Asgardians are frozen in ice. She goes further, we see the Avengers are frozen as well. As she begins to doubt herself, a couple of frost giants and some ice wolves greet her. She makes short work of the ice wolves and moves on to the frost giants, which she takes care of with some thunder. Turns out that the lair is a giant ice pillar going up to Roxxon's floating island, where the giants and Malekith are looking for the giant skull that Roxxon found, which happens to belong to Luffy, king of the frost giants. As the troll and the remaining Roxxon security members deal with the giants and Malekith, Ager, the Roxxon CEO and occasional Minotaur, heads down to the basement, only to be met with a group of frost giants. Just as Ager is going to go into Minotaur mode to deal with them, new Thor comes crashing down. Ager looking a bit confused with the new Thor. As he puts it, I've met Thor, I've punched Thor, and you're not Thor. With that insult, she brings the fight to the giants. Throwing the hammer and punching the giant right in the face, Ager takes this opportunity to leave to his vault, which have a vibranium core with adamantium plating. Guess he's been taking lessons from Ultron. Just as he closes the door, Mjolnir gets stuck inside with Ager. This now leaves the new Thor in a bad situation, and leaves us with the question, with the hammer she was a goddess of thunder, but without it, who is she? The issue starts off a few days ago in Jotunheim, with Skymir, the guardian of Jotunheim, talking about the good old days when they could just throw their children out into a monster snowstorm that comes around every so often. Although the giants still do this, it's not been the same since Luffy, their king, was killed. This is when Malekith enters the conversation with some good news for Skymir. The good news being that Malekith has found the lost skull of Luffy. It's on Earth. Skymir says this info isn't much help for him, as invading Midgard means going to war with Asgard, which means going to war with Thor and his hammer. Malekith has some more good news, that his spies in Asgard have heard that Thor is without his hammer, and is now nothing but a god. Now back in current time, we pick up right where the last issue ended, with Thor surrounded by frost giants and the hammer still stuck in the vault. Malekith pops up to question, as he calls Lady Thor, and she threatens him in her best Asgardian impression, to which even Malekith says she has his lingo and attitude down. But he grows bored quick and tells the frost giants to deal with her, as he's already killed one Thor this week, and with that, Skymir freezes and swallows her whole. Next order of business would be to get the vault door open. Malekith gives it a try but barely dents it. Just then Lady Thor explodes from Skymir and begins punching the remaining giants. Malekith is amused by this, but remains focused on the vault door. He gives it another try, this time using magic, and is successful in getting inside. Agur is surprised by this, as his VP of Warlocks assured him that the doors were magic-proof. Malekith demands Luffy's skull, but Agur is not having any of it and goes full Minotaur mode, and they begin to fight. Back outside the vault, Lady Thor is putting up a tougher fight than the Frost Giants expected, but she's not sure how long she can keep it up, as the longer she's away from her hammer, the weaker she's getting. She hits the ground, causing it to collapse, sending all the giants to the ocean floor below, giving her some time to get her hammer before her powers disappear completely. Just before she changes back to her normal self, Nomir breaks through and she regains her powers. Inside the elevator, the fight between Malekith and Agur resulted in Luffy's skull being found. Lady Thor shows up and has just about enough of all the fighting and death over the skull, and with that she smashes it into pieces. Malekith, shocked by this action, tells her that she's just doomed the realm, and all out war with the Frost Giants is all but guaranteed now. But before she has time to let that news sink in, original Thor shows up and says she's already has a war on her hands. The issue starts off with Thor waking up in Asgard and wondering where his arm went. Luckily for him, Odin is there to fill in the missing details and give Thor a much needed pep talk. And by pep talk, I mean telling him how big of an idiot he is. Thor is in a hurry to get back to Midgard, after all it's still under his protection. Odin was expecting this and sent out word to the finest blacksmiths in all the realms to make him a new arm. An old acquaintance of Thor's named Screwbeard has made him one made of black Uri. Thor thanks his friend for the gift and is about to take off to Earth, but Odin tells him he needs to know some things before he goes. 1. His hammer has gone missing, and 2. His mother is also missing. Now we pick up where the last issue ended, with Thor demanding his hammer back from Lady Thor and wanting to know where his mother is. Malekith and Agur, who were fighting, have now stopped, and are now watching the people of Thunder argue. They apparently don't want to miss the Jerry Springer moment that's happening in front of them. Lady Thor attempts to explain the situation to Thor, but he's not having any of it. To make it worse, she accidentally touches him with Nomir, which puts him over the edge and he punches her through the wall. As the fighting escalates, Thor loses his axe, to which Lady Thor says she'll give him a quarter, to which he replies, "Hell with you." She explains that the hammer chose her, but he says she has no idea what it means to wield the hammer, that he's died for it, and he will die for it again if need be. Their fight ends with Nomir flying around and hitting all the Frost Giants that have surrounded them during their fight. Thor sees the hammer coming back to him, but actually just going back to its new owner. A disappointed Thor looks on and acknowledges the new owner of the hammer. He just wants to know one thing, if Lady Thor is his mother. She answers the question pretty quickly by kissing him on the lips. Although he still doesn't trust her completely, they work together to defeat the remaining Frost Giants. After all the giants are taken care of, Malekith shows up to say farewell and to burn up Thor's arm. Then Agur shows up and tells the Thors to get off his island, which they do, but promise him next time they'll have him answer for all his crimes. Now that the Frost Giant invasion is taken care of, the focus shifts to freeing all the heroes trapped in the ice. And thanks to the mages from Asgard, they're all freed, including Thor's mom, who came down with Asgardian warriors against Odin's wishes. Freya asks Thor if he knows who she is, to which he replies, "All I know is that she is worthy." He also says not to call him Thor anymore, as he's not worthy of it. He's Odin's son, and she is Thor. Back on Roxxon's frozen island, we see Agur negotiating with someone. He says this is the real Luffy skull, the other is just a decoy. In exchange for the skull, he wants realms. Malekith says maybe they can do business together after all. This issue starts off in Asgardia with Odin being royally pissed about Thor losing his hammer to a woman. Odin says it's been corrupted and stolen by her. He then uses his magic orb to find out where and who she is. And with that, we're taken to Midgard, where Thor is fighting the Absorbing Man, who just got done robbing an armored truck. He then starts to complain about the new Thor being a woman, and it's completely fine if she feels the need to be a hero, but she could have at least got her own identity. Well, Thor gets tired of this pretty quickly and ends the conversation by breaking the Absorbing Man's jaw. The Absorbing Man's wife Titina then pops up to see what all the commotion is about, and she actually is impressed by the new Thor being a woman. So impressed in fact that she gives up after knocking out her husband, saying that the prison time will do them some good. And with that situation taken care of, we're sent back to Asgardia, where Odin's still trying to get his orb to show him who Thor is behind the mask. Just then, Odin's son and his mother walk in. Odin's son says to leave her be, as he has let her have the hammer and the name Thor as well. Well, this does nothing to help Odin's mood, as he can't understand why everybody keeps telling the king of all the universe what to do. To make matters worse, Cole, Odin's brother who tried to kill Odin's son once, was just made the Minister of Justice by Odin. Apparently they spent some quality family time together, and now Odin believes him to be reformed. Before things get too out of hand, Odin's son decides to leave, with his mother following close by. Later, while drinking in a bar, he sees Lady Sif and joins her. They trade some jabs about their failed romance, but they make up quickly enough. That is until he very bluntly asks her if she's the new Thor, to which she doesn't take very kindly to. She doesn't give him a straight yes or no answer, but I would lean towards no. On the moon, Thor takes a moment to collect her thoughts, when Freya appears via Bifrost to give her some advice and a warning. The advice is not to depend on the hammer, and to be worthy of not just the powers of Thor, but also the name. And the warning is that dark days are coming soon, with Malekith still out there and the Allfather on a quest to find out who she is. Thor thanks the Allmother for all this, and she's off. Back in Asgardia, we see Odin and his brother discussing the new Thor, and how to get the hammer back. Odin's plan? Send the destroyer to get the hammer and the dead body of the new Thor.